Now, a lot of people start off with the Sorceress for a ladder reset, and also I do recommend for most people, if you're starting offline single player, if you're going to start an entire playthrough, maybe a holy grail, and you want to farm up gear for all different types of characters, to start off with the Sorceress. And there's a great reason why that is. This mega budget Blizzard Sorceress has been tried and true since even the days of LOD, and it works just as great now. Now I'm going to start off with the character screens, aka the stats page. We're going to jump into the skill tree, and then we'll wrap that up with the actual gear, kind of some budget setup type of stuff that you can go ahead and find how to kind of find some of it and throw it on the Sorceress, absolutely wreck. And then we'll go ahead and also we'll take a look over what I decide I like to do with the Mercenary. Now also I will say this is kind of how I want it to look kind of right after I finish the game. Usually I'll respec somewhere in the middle of Nightmare. It depends on personal preference. For me, it's usually right at the beginning of Act 4 of Nightmare into the Blizzard Sorceress, and I kind of put my skill points and stats into the character in order to have it all end up looking this way right at the end of the game so I can start farming for that even better gear, for that endgame stuff. Now, taking a look at the character screen here on this Blizzard Sorceress, I have a base. I put 115 points into this. I get a few more from the other skills right here. Now, I kind of have what I view it as striking distance for getting up to 156, because I'm hoping eventually, if I'm using this mega budget Sorceress, I'm going to want to get myself a Spirit Shield. So I'm not quite all the way there yet. This is a level 80 Sorceress, so this would be as if you killed some stuff in Hell difficulty, leveled up a little bit. So we're, like I said, within striking distance. Get that strength for the Spirit. Now, depending on what you're deciding to do, maybe you wouldn't even need to get it that high, because actually the gear I have on, the maximum strength I need is only like 60 or 70 or something. So it's going to be up to you, but this is how I do it. I dump everything else into Vitality for this one. Right now, resistances, it's not too important to look. You want to get those up better, but when you have super budget gear, you do the best you can with what you got. Now on the skill tree, pretty basic. We got the 1 point wonder of Warmth right here, and you just put the 1 point into it. As you get more plus skills, it'll get the level up and get you some more mana recovery, but also some of the gear on the Mercenary, spoiler, will help out your mana recovery. More 1 point wonders here, telekinesis, getting down to teleport, of course, and the 1 point wonder of static that you can utilize against act bosses and such. Now we'll jump over to the cold skill tree where a majority of our points are going. We'll talk about first 1 point wonder of frozen armor, pretty normal right there. We want to get down, putting points into it till we get down to Blizzard. Now, with it being at level 80 and completing a lot of the quests that you get the plus skills from along on the playthrough, or maybe you finished them up after you beat the game. So we went ahead and we actually have a synergy here capped out in Glacial Spike. We have a Ice Blast synergy right here that is also maxed out. And then I actually had, I think it was like 17 remaining points possibly. So we actually got a base here of 14 points into Ice Bolt. And I actually got Cold Mastery up to -11. Usually if I do not have an Infinity, I aim for the minus resistance on Cold Mastery to be around 100. But I came up a little bit short of that because I assumed I would be getting some more plus skills in the near future once I get out there farming a little bit more. So once again, I'm kind of setting myself up for getting them plus skills, and then I'll get up to the level to get the -100 there. Once you get a bunch of plus skill gear later and you have Infinity, you have really good gear, I usually utilize Cold Mastery as just a 1 point wonder. But for now, like I said, I eventually kind of want to aim for that -100 before I get Infinity. Now, for which secondary skill you use, because of course you're going to be casting Blizzards down to attack, you can use Ice Blast to freeze everything directly in its place, or you could go ahead and actually throw out some Frost Novas to kind of freeze everything momentarily. What I do a lot of times is I'll use Ice Blast if I'm going against like groups of cows, perhaps, to freeze them in place to keep my Mercenary alive, or if I'm going against an act boss, Ice Blast actually does quite a bit of damage. Right there you can see it's 1100, but this Glacial Spike is actually only 733. So if you're going against the act bosses and Darrow Mephisto, I'll rock this one. This one can help out your survivability. Now go ahead and looking at the gear, I'm going to try to go quick because there's a lot of different options I want to mention. Maybe you can't get your hands on exactly what I got, but maybe you found something else along the way. I'll try to mention a few different options, but I'm going to kind of go quick there. Up on the helmet, I almost always, right off the bat, try to get my first magic find for doing Mephisto and Dario up on the helmet. And if you can get perfect topazes, of course, throw them in. But I'm just showing you this for the fact that sometimes just getting 3 topazes super quick, throwing them in and getting out there and farming to try to get that better gear is going to help you out more than trying to get 6 more flawless topazes to cube together, because the only difference between flawless and perfect is 12 magic find total in this helm. It's not going to be a huge problem in my opinion. Of course, other options up here, you can go with the lore, that's probably the most obvious. Or if you find a peasant's crown, quite often I'll find one of those along the way. I've taken a look at the weapon right here, spirit sword. The most obvious one, a lot of people go with that. Before I can get this, you find some orb along the way, or I'll just shop an FCR wand sometimes to get up to the FCR breakpoint on this particular build if I need to along the playthrough. But spirit sword is about the only option, great option. You're going to be using this until you get Heart of the Oak or Oculus later. Jumping over to the shield, right now I got a rhyme, just a shale and an Ethrune. So this is absolutely great with the magic find. You got block rate, block chance. $25 res is awesome. Cannot be frozen, it's not as important on casters, but you got it there as well. And it just takes 2 runes and a 2-socketed shield. Of course, the next up option you're going to want to get as fast as you can is go ahead and get yourself a spirit shield, 35 FCR. It's pretty much a lot like the sword, but you're throwing it over on the shield side too. Down on the armor, this is Stealth Tail F. You can make this in normal difficulty, and a lot of times I'll use this all the way through the playthrough. And even after I'm farming in hell difficulty for a while, the walk, run, caster, hit recovery is too good, along with the little poison res as well. Next option up from this is probably the skin of the Viper Magi, and then, you know, your end game stuff, your enigmas, your chains of honors and such. Now you probably notice the amulet slot is empty. What I usually do is, if I can, sometimes some amethysts and rails, man, you really want to get crafting a ton, but I just go ahead and craft up 1 caster amulet right off the bat. If not for that, your best magic or rare thing you find along the way. But boom, go ahead and craft yourself a caster amulet. We got 5 FCR, the minimum of, unfortunately, and 43 mana. Not a great roll, but this is usually what I do for my very first mega budget amulet. It can sometimes help you get to that FCR breakpoint that you need to get to. Now, down on the gloves, Phil, what are you talking about here? This is what you do for mega budget? Yeah, usually I go over to a vendor, shop what I can find. Maybe you'll find a rare something along the way. It's just kind of the best you can find that gets you a little bit of resistance, a little bit of life. Anything above this, it's going to be a unique that's maybe possibly tough to find. Not the hardest, but super early on I'm talking about. It's going to be either Mage Fist, Strength Gloves, or the Frostburn Gauntlet. So one of those 3 are pretty much the go-tos for any Sorceress early game and late game, but anything before that, just rare gloves with, like I said, life and any resistances you can get. I actually a lot of times run over to Geeds, gamble a few pairs, throw on whatever the best one was, and that's exactly what this is. Gambled a few pairs, I got that, and I got some Magic Find ones here, so maybe if I'm Mo Trick and Mephisto, I can go ahead and throw the Magic Find ones on, or I can wear these if I need them somewhere else. Down on the rings, once again, it's the best you can find along the way, or if you go ahead and gamble a few rings, that's kind of what I did. I actually gambled this Menald. Kind of funny. So both of these are just gambled over from Geeds, but along the way, FCR rare rings, any magic rings. A lot of times on the whole playthrough, I'll have 1 blue, 10 FCR, and that'll be the best thing I'll have for a very long time. But of course, it's all the end game options, you know, perfect point, rare ring, or Stone of Jordans or whatever. So it's a very sliding scale in here of the whatever the best is you can find. So if you do have FCR rings here, do watch your breakpoints, because I'll go ahead and slide it in right now. It's 63 and then 105. So if you have like 89 FCR and you have a 10 FCR ring here, it's kind of going to waste. So whether you throw on something with mana, or maybe you're going to make up your fire res right here on just some fire res rings. So keep an eye on those FCR breakpoints, because there's a large gap once you get up a little higher to where it's not benefiting you at all. But if you do need to get a little bit more, you see once again we have another open spot here at the belt. You throw in an Ith rune, so there was a Ral rune to craft a caster amulet. This is an Ith rune. I went ahead and gambled a magic belt from Geeds. I would recommend gambling a few to at least get a sharkskin belt, because the light belt only has 2 rows of potions. So I always gamble a few until I get at least a sharkskin or the next one higher, which I can't remember what it is off the top of my head right now, but we'll go ahead and craft that up. And okay, I would be extraordinarily happy with that if I got that at the beginning of ladder. 8 FCR, 58 to life, 19 to mana, a couple lightning and poison res. Man, if that was day 1 of ladder, I'd be ecstatic with that one right there. So a caster belt, great option, can get you up to that FCR breakpoint. If not, of course, just like any uniques or rares along the way you find, if you find a string of ears, throw it on, or a rare belt that can look remarkably like this, but maybe it doesn't have FCR, of course, but maybe hit recovery or something. So any of those rare options along the way. Boots are kind of the same spot as the gloves. I walk over to Geeds a lot of times, gamble a few, and then go ahead and throw on whatever one rolls the best perhaps, or you can actually shop these from vendors as well, getting whatever resistance you want to go ahead and make up. Here I decided to get poison. I gambled these, but I decided to keep the ones with poison, and they have 30% faster run walk. You can actually shop or gamble Magic Find boots that I believe can have up to 40. I think that's the number anyways, can't remember for sure, but a lot of times I'll have a secondary Magic Find pair and then a pair that I'll use when I'm out there trying to level up, whether I'm doing bail runs or cast runs, where the resistance is going to be much more important so you don't get absolutely melted. Same as the gloves, any rare or uniques you find along the way you think would help you out more, a lot of times it's going to be rare, and that's kind of a sliding scale depending on how good of rares that you actually find. They could be the best in slot for endgame too. Now on swap, we do not have a call to arms, but this is actually crucially important early on. Lower res wand. You're going to be utilizing this either when you're going after Andariel or Motric and Mephisto early on. I don't use this on every single monster pack or anything along those lines, but specifically those large bosses, just to make it a little bit easier, a little faster for you. You go ahead and get them casted with the lower resistance, and it helps you out a ton. Now we're looking at our Act 2 Mercenary. I still go with cold just to go ahead and keep the Mercenary alive, and maybe you're not quite freezing everything all the time. This is just another safety issue right here. You could go ahead and go with the Prayer Mercenary with the Cure Helm and the Insight, and that would kind of give you the regeneration that's sort of along the lines with the Energy Shield Nova Sorceress. It doesn't work the same, sort of because your life pool is so high, and it's a kind of a complicated to explain, but you could go with that. Regardless, the Cleansing Aura will get rid of poison and curses super fast, which is just amazing to have. But super early on, I usually go with the Holy Freeze one anyways, just to help keep everybody safe and sound. Now I got an Insight over here. It's just a mid-range, it's whatever the best you can get as an Insight early on. Of course, like I said, if you have no mana issue super endgame, you can end up eventually getting Infinity, but I would just get the best Insight you can, and then get the next best Insight you can, and then get the next best Insight you can. Up on the helmet here, I got the Bulwark. This one is great for keeping him alive. He's got the Life Leech, you got damage reduction, so just great, a little bit of vitality on there, hit recovery. It's a really solid helm for an Act 2 Mercenary. The IO is tough. You can make a blood helm, and back before these new rune words were in, that's what I would do, and it would kind of help you out a little bit, but the Life Leech roll is only 1 to 3%, so it's almost nothing. On this, I believe it rolls 4 to 6, so it's much better of a Life Leech roll. More life you leech back, obviously the better he'll survive. You could also, like I said, just throw a Cure on up here, just to go ahead and get rid of any poison, any curses and stuff like that to help you out and your Mercenary. That choice will be up to you. Of course, if you find a Talisman, toss that on. That's another great kind of semi-budget option. It's not too expensive to trade for, but you never know exactly if you're going to find one. Now, I went with one of my kind of like hilarious budget options here on the Mercenary. If you find Natalia's armor, it actually inherently has the life based on character level, poison res, and poison length reduced to 75. So I go ahead and throw in a Ral or Thul that gives you 30 to the cold, lightning, fire. So you got essentially 25 all res with 80 to life here. It's based on character level. So this is a kind of a good option right there to make up. The resistances are all capped on him except for the poison, just barely not. But then another option that I like throwing on here is the Griswolds. If you find that one along the way, it's not guaranteed. I know. But it's just another option if you find these set pieces that you can throw in the runes, help out the resistances. Griswolds has a bunch of strength, so maybe you can get your strength up to where like a CV or something if you needed to. But there is, of course, the kind of standard looking options. The Treachery over here is going to be great. And then a lot of different uniques, whether you find a Shaftstop or a Duriel Shell or a ton of other things here. But of course, I mean, you want to see if this actually works at all, right? Well, let's check it out. So here we're down to the lower level. We're just on P1 as if you're, online by yourself or whatever. So I always teleport over here, first of all, kind of clear this area out. Sometimes you can get some of these champion, whatever those grotesques or whatever they're called, I don't know. But I kind of clear this area out first right here. This is where I like to go after Andariel. So go ahead and lure Andariel over. I usually try to take out this shaman over here. They can be pretty annoying. But once we lure Andariel over here, get the lower res on, kind of teleport back and keep your mercenary away. And then I drop blizzards and have Andariel kind of run around these blocks of, what are these, barrels or whatever? Andariel is almost dead already. So it's like no problem. Take Andariel out, drop that. Got a Trang's head right there. Interesting drop. But there you go. It can kind of be that easy and that fast to take out Andariel. So great place to find a ton of great uniques for a ton of different characters and a ton of different builds. An important thing to note, you see my mercenaries getting attacked by these guys. Anything near Andariel will drop dead. So sometimes you may want to check some of the areas around there. Now we'll go ahead and go after Mephisto, and usually you see I don't have the mercenary with me. I would generally say don't bring your mercenary if you're going to be Motricking Mephisto, because he'll just end up dying. Mephisto hits really hard. So generally what you would do if you don't know about this, kind of come over here and lure Mephisto to the moat of blood here, and you want to get to just the distance here where Mephisto will not be attacking you, but none of the other monsters get aggroed over. So there is a little spot here, and because of it's even wider, it makes it easier than it was in LOD. And then just go ahead and drop blizzards down. Now, it could take a little bit of while because I did not static. And of course, we have lower... Whoop! I forgot to equip lower resistance. Don't make that mistake. But lower res Mephisto there. And then go ahead and drop the blizzards on. And it will take a second to take them out. You know, it is what it is. It doesn't take that long, though. You can see its health chopping down, chopping down, chopping down. If you wanted to, you could try to shoot some of these in between. Kind of unnecessary with this build, but Mephisto down. Didn't drop us anything there, but you go ahead and telekinesis that portal, and boom, Mephisto's down. Now, I'm not going to go over every place you could take this, but I'll talk about my 2 best or favorite, or whichever way you want to word it. The first one is the Stony Tombs. Now, there are no inherent cold immunes down here, with the exception of the creeping feature, but he's just one monster, and he's not too difficult, and every other monster you can go ahead and take out. Occasionally, you'll get a random monster that is a champion or unique or whatever that will be immune to cold, but it's few and far between. You'll be okay. We're getting hit by some of that lightning, and you do have very low resistance. So, of course, when you do get hit, it's going to be a little bit of an issue. So you're going to have to play it, you know, a little bit safe here, but, you know, you'll be all right dropping some blizzards from a distance. Mercenary surviving, kind of okay. So down here, this is an 85 area, anyone who didn't know, so you can find every single unique item in the game, even the most rarest. You can find the Tyrell's Mites, you could find yourself a Death's Fathom, Nightwings that could help you out down here. So just a great magic find location to really pick up those super rare unique stuff. And of course, you could find any of the high runes, the Jaws, the Burrs, etc., etc. And here's that creeping feature I told you about. You can just go ahead and skip them if you want to, that's fine. Next up is another area that's been ran by any cold builds, a lot of times the Blizzard Sorceress here, and that is the Ancient Tunnels. Just like the Stony Tombs, no inherent cold immunes unless you come across that random camp or whatever that's going to be immune to cold. But they're super easy, another 85 areas, so they can drop TC 87 items from the elites and champs anyways. Sometimes I get the names of which one's which mixed up. I'm sure I did down in the Stony Tombs, but you know what I mean. Essentially what I'm saying when I say 85 area, TC 87 items, it just means every unique in the game can drop from the elites and champions down here. And this one's an absolute classic. A lot of people probably know about this one for the Blizzard Sorcerers, but yeah, these two in Act 2 are probably my favorite for areas to go out and magic find outside of Mephisto and Andariel.